Appropriately, let's follow up our last episode with another lost episode I wrote, rather recently in fact, Mortal Kombat Annihilation original version. So, Mortal Kombat Annihilation needs no introduction. It sucks. I've reviewed it, you've reviewed it, but as much as it sucks, I still find it an enjoyable watch. Each time, I just wonder what we could have got instead, and so looking for a comeback to Creepypasta, I decided, why not another cringy lost episode? This time around, I was ready to just risk it and put it on the line. Either you'll love it or you'll hate it, like many other lost episode creepypastas. As a matter of fact, kinda like the movie that it's based on. So without further ado, let's take a look.
Mortal Kombat Annihilation is a 1997 film based on the Mortal Kombat video game series and the sequel to the 1995 film Mortal Kombat. This movie is infamously known for sucking major ass. Almost everyone from the first film was recast, the special effects look like utter shit, and the plot of the movie is all over the place, which leads to the film making very little sense. Lots of fan favorite characters from the first three games, including the likes of Ermac, Rain, Smoke, Cyrax, Shiva, Melina, and Baraka, appear in the movie, but they are completely wasted, being killed off or not utilized well. Not to mention Johnny Cage, one of the most popular characters in the video game, and one of the most beloved elements of the first film, is killed by Shao Kahn in the first 5 minutes of the movie after having his neck snapped. The fact that it was a box office bomb is only the cherry on top. Needless to say, this movie sucks. It was so bad that it canceled the planned sequel under the name of Mortal Kombat Devastation, which would have probably been based on Mortal Kombat 4 and possibly Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance. Most people who follow and support the Mortal Kombat series are very well aware of this, but I can guarantee that you will never hear about a lost piece of media, which is the original cut of Mortal Kombat Annihilation. In 2014, I learned about this version of this travesty through my job at an Indian film archive. Our assignment that week was to find footage to submit to some lost media archive in the US, and whoever found what was most valuable would have a pretty decent pay raise. Looking for footage to submit to the lost media archives, I recalled something I saw long ago. It was on an old Mortal Kombat forum where I stumbled upon information regarding what was said to be the original sequel to the 1995 Mortal Kombat movie. Even though the post has since been deleted, it was not the end of it. It is my job to do shit like this, so I was on a mission to determine if this original sequel was legit, or if this website is just pulling my leg. That year, I traveled to different parts of the world to obtain information regarding this Mortal Kombat movie. So, after much talk with different people involved, I received a VHS tape during an interview with the original director of the movie. The VHS tape with a big New Line Cinema logo drawn on the front, which we took back to the film archive and watched, contained what was left of the original version. Only about an hour or less of the tape survived through deterioration. As a result, scenes flow in and out of context. Now, here's a bit of background. This original sequel to the 1995 film Mortal Kombat, of course based on the games, was said to be bigger and better than the original. Shooting began before the first even hit theaters, with some of the original actors such as Robin Shou, Lyndon Ashby, and Christopher Lambert returned to reprise their roles. However, some of the main characters were also recast, like Sonya and Jax. Because he was busy with Event Horizon, this film was not directed by Paul Anderson. Instead, a former Japanese game developer who was a Mortal Kombat fan was chosen for the project. Now, this dude wanted a more faithful adaptation of the video game. He wasn't thrilled with the first film's lack of gore, and he would openly speak of his dislike towards a censored Super Nintendo version of Mortal Kombat 1. So under his direction, the movie would have been more violent and bloody, in line with the video games the movies were based on. This would have drastically deviated from the first film's tone. Minor note, the film was not titled Mortal Kombat Annihilation, instead being Mortal Kombat 2, like the game. The VHS tape we watched opens with the New Line Cinema logo, but without the iconic Mortal Kombat theme song. The opening credits are simply a black screen with white text, and the opening music from the arcade version of Mortal Kombat 2. After this, it opens with Raiden recapping the events of the first film, and then cutting to the Chinese temple being swarmed by Outworld's warriors, and eventually Shao Kahn himself. Here, Shao Kahn is not played by Brian Thompson, but instead a different actor, with his voice dubbed in by Frank Welker, who reprises his role from the first film. Another notable difference is that Kahn keeps his helmet on. Much like in what we got, Sindel and Motaro are also present in the beginning of the film, but notably, Ermac and Rain are not. Instead, Baraka and Molina take their places, appearing much earlier on and having a bigger part throughout the film. I don't know if stuntman Dennis Kiffer plays Baraka in this version. However, Molina is played by the same actress as Katana, as the two are twin sisters. An element cut from the final version is that Molina's voice is dubbed over to sound more menacing and monstrous. Additionally, the character of Shiva was not in the film. Instead of her, the plan was to feature Kintaro, the tiger-striped Shokan who was seen in Mortal Kombat 2. However, due to the living hell it was to have Goro on the big screen in the first film, he was mostly substituted with CGI effects, similar to how Reptile looks in his lizard form in the first film. Some shots with Kintaro are practical, but it was only the top half, so you could only see his head and shoulders. One thing that this version had over the final was that the main characters resembled how they did in the first film. Sonya is still in rags, Raiden is wearing the same outfit, and Shao Kahn looks the same as he does at the end of the first film, in which he is teased for the sequel. In what we got, most of the recast characters don't even resemble what they were previously, in appearance and character. Major note, Johnny Cage does not die in the beginning of the film. Instead, he's injured by Kintaro, who punches him in the chest, knocking the wind out of him. Raiden attempts to stop Shao Kahn, but he's unsuccessful, being thrown many feet into the air after taking a knee lift from Kahn. After Raiden is sent flying off screen, the scene cuts to Johnny, injured from the blow to his chest from Kintaro, trying to recover. The punch was strong enough to make him spit out blood. Once Liu Kang and Sonya find him and try to help him get up, the scene cuts to another scene. With no context, this next scene takes place in a cave of sorts. Liu Kang and Katana run into the younger Sub-Zero, again played by Keith Cook, who played Reptile previously. However, he wears the mask pretty much the entire time. I mean, he takes it off to show Liu Kang who he is, but then he puts it right back on his head. Shortly after, Scorpion shows up, supporting his appearance from the first movie, and fights Sub-Zero, with the outcome being the same as Katana is captured and taken to Shao Kahn. Notably, Scorpion does not yell, "Suckers!" Instead, he ties up Katana with one of his living spears and coldly stares at Liu Kang and Sub-Zero on the other side of the bridge, while Liu Kang helps Sub-Zero up from the edge of the cliff. Instead of his rather hilarious one-liner, Scorpion says, "To hell with you!" and teleports away with Katana. Both warriors then go on the search for Khan's whereabouts. After this, we simply progress to Johnny and Sonya, who who is headed to a military base to find Jax. They find Jax standing triumphantly with his cybernetic metal arms. After some brief character interaction, the scene cuts off Jax mid-sentence and immediately cuts to Johnny fighting Cyrax, the yellow Lin Kuei cyber ninja. Jax and Sonya fight him as well, much like in the garbage fire we got, but the difference here is that Sector, the red Lin Kuei cyber ninja, is also present with Cyrax fighting Johnny. The costumes for Sector and Cyrax are the same as those seen in Mortal Kombat 3, with minor differences. Sector is the only robot that can shoot missiles here. Cyrax cannot. He is only seen to use his buzzsaw attack and net projectile. The fight goes on until Jax gotcha grabs both of the robots at once and bonks them together and then rips off their heads. This results in a mess of oil everywhere. Right after Jax kills them off, the scene cuts to another. The following scene seems to have been scrapped from the final film. This scene also takes place in Khan's lair, but instead of Sindel being handpicked as Khan's general, the scene follows up on where Sub-Zero goes after he leaves Liu Kang behind in the cave where Kitana was captured. Sub-Zero walks into Khan's throne room and demands to bring Scorpion forth. Khan laughs, as Scorpion teleports behind the Blue Warrior. The two ninjas begin to argue, with Scorpion accusing Sub-Zero of murdering his family and clan. But that was Bi-Han, the elder Sub-Zero, who Liu Kang kills in the first movie. Bi-Han would have been thought to be responsible for the death of the Shirai Ryu ninja clan, as well as the wife and son of Scorpion. I don't know if that was established in the original canon or in the movie timeline. No, it wasn't in the movie timeline, but is what it is. While still being on the opposing faction, it appears as though the trance that Shang Tsung had Scorpion in the first one wore off. Sub-Zero denies this accusation from Scorpion, which leads to more jabs thrown, and eventually a fight between the two. The fight ends with Sub-Zero being victorious, performing his Icicle Impalement Fatality from Mortal Kombat 3, Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, on him. This is the first scene in the movie to be particularly gory. After killing Scorpion, well, for now, Sub-Zero tries to rescue Kitana from her imprisonment. To do so, he has to finish Shao Kahn. He throws his ice projectile at the Emperor, freezing him, and then he goes to rescue Kitana from her cage. Before he can do so much as unlocking her cage, Sub-Zero finds a spear lodged in his chest. Kahn had thawed out of the ice and used one of his moves from Mortal Kombat 2. Sub-Zero proceeds to bleed out and die from his injury as Shao Kahn laughs and says, "Was that your best?" After Sub-Zero is brutally murdered with a spear, Khan orders his extermination squad, including Motaro, Sindel, Baraka, and Melina, to pick Sub-Zero off the ground and throw him in the basement. The extermination squad throws him into a trapdoor leading to the basement, which consists of a dark room with several bodies scattered about, including the skeletal remains of Shang Tsung from the first movie, assuming based on the black sleeveless top that this particular skeleton had. On top of several deceased warriors lies the remains of Sub-Zero. Immediately after this, the scene ends and cuts to a new one. The following scene also takes place in Khan's throne room. It appears to be a drastic, alternative version from a scene that is from the finished film. Shao Kahn hands Kitana a drink of some sort and asks her to join them. She rejects this, spitting at him and explaining how he drove her mom to suicide. Rather than belittling her and walking away, Khan says, "Very well," and signals Melina to come over. She does and enters the cage that Kitana is in. She tries to fight back, but it is not enough to stop her sister. As a result, Kitana dies as a result of being bitten in the neck and partially eaten. Another scene comes, presumably much later in the movie, where Liu Kang eventually finds where Kitana was held captive, and at first he thinks he has found her. he took her out of the cage for a slight embrace. She leans in for the kiss, and then she removes her mask. As it turns out, Mileena simply put on Kitana's outfit and tried to eat him. He shoves her off and demands the whereabouts of Kitana. She simply laughs at him as Khan enters the room, who has been waiting for him to come and try and rescue Kitana. Once Liu Kang says he wants Kitana, Shao Kahn laughs and says, "Liu Kang, you are too late. Kitana is no more." Baraka enters the room holding the indecently exposed corpse of Kitana, placing her on the ground and walking away. Devastated, Liu kneels and mourns her death. While he's on the ground mourning Kitana, Khan orders Baraka to assassinate Liu. Once Baraka goes in for the attack, Liu counters him with a fireman's carry catch and tosses him into the nearby fire pit. Notably, Baraka is seen to go into the fire pit as Rain is not there to double for him. In fact, Baraka has a whole sequence dedicated to him burning alive, with effects similar to that of the Nazi from one of the Indiana Jones movies who has his face burned off. He eventually disintegrated into nothing. Jeez, no wonder Rain took the fall for the Honorable Tarkatan. After we see this, we cut to the climax of the film. The film's climax goes something like this. Johnny Cage faces Kentaro and wins. The fight reminisces over the fight with Goro and Cage from the first movie, going as far as Kentaro being victim to the nut punch and having his head uppercutted 3 times before it is launched off his body. This is a reference to a glitch in the second game related to Johnny's fatality, in which he uppercuts his opponent's head off 3 times. Right after Kentaro, Johnny goes to face Shao Kahn. Unfortunately, he does not win. He is the first one to die in battle with the Emperor, who beats him up with his warhammer and launches his head off with it. After Cage, Kahn completely decimates the entire Earthrealm team. Among many others, he kills Sonya, Jax, Sub-Zero. Wait, what? Whoopsies! And even Liu Kang, using his shoulder charge abilities and his hammer. Earthrealm loses. Shao Kahn wins, and he is surrounded by corpses. He laughs maniacally, monologues about his victory while embracing Queen Sindel. Just as Khan has won, Raiden teleports before him and demands him to surrender. The invasion of Earthrealm was against the rules of the Elder Gods. Khan laughs in Raiden's face and shoves him right before going back to making out with his queen. The Thunder God gets up and blasts the Emperor full of lightning. Green-lit energy begins to consume Shao Kahn as he screams in agony from the blast. The Emperor deforms into ridiculous proportions before exploding. With the power of Raiden and Shao Kahn's energy, the explosion becomes much too big and wipes out everyone on the battlefield. No one stands on the battlefield victorious. No one wins. Brutality. However, the sun rises. The realms are no longer merged. The structures aside are all intact once again. Earth is safe again. The last shot of the film is a close-up shot of Khan's helmet lying in the rubble. The scene then fades to black. No credits, no music, just a New Line Cinema logo after about 10 seconds of darkness. A red screen of death with a loud beeping noise is seen after the logo. Final thesis: the movie was canned and Annihilation was made instead. We have come to understand that the original director was fired due to creative differences. Kentaro was cut from the film and replaced with Shiva, Baraka and Mileena were reduced to shit, and several actors left the project due to the final version of the script sucking ass. You shouldn't, but if you ever find a VHS tape with a New Line Cinema logo drawn on it in white marker, make sure that you watch it and draw your own conclusions. I bet you'd be just as confused as us.
So as a writer, I feel like this story just isn't bizarrely scary. I mean, the ideas I came up with were interesting, but not in the same way as other Lost Episode creepypastas. I find myself comparing this story that I've written to another Lost Episode creepypasta, Godzilla vs. Destroya. It's not in your face scary, kinda like what I just whipped up in the microwave. What do you think? Is this creepypasta with a K any better than the others I've done in the past? Or is it just another ranted shit like Sonic X Episode 81? Let you be the judge.
Fatality.